So the front side would be where it starts with number 1. Usually the best place to go. So we're going to take a peek at some different things again with surveys, observational studies, and experiments. And we'll talk a little bit as we go about, how to tell the differences with some again. So we're actually going to start here up at the top with something that we didn't talk much about yesterday, which is whether each of these surveys would produce a random sample. In other words, would there be bias or would there be favoritism towards something? If there is, that's not very random. It's kind of you're directing it towards a specific group. So if we look at one like number 1, it says we're going to survey every third person coming out of an ice cream shop to find out people's favorite type of dessert. Would that be a random sample?
Yes. No. You're saying every third person.
Every third person would be good, but there's something else there that should sort of get our alert buzzers going off here.
Ice cream shop?
Ice cream shop, because if we're trying to find out, in general, people's favorite dessert and we're standing outside the ice cream shop, there's probably going to be a bias towards that. So, I, in this case, for this one, would say, yeah, don't think so. Don't think that's very random. Explain, well, here there'd be a bias toward ice cream. So, again, now if you don't see a bias, you could just put sure, because, this is random or something like that. But, again, put just a little bit of an explanation on there on why you think that's going to work that particular way. And I'm going to bounce around a little bit with some of these, but I'm going to make sure I hit every single type that's on here, just so make sure we've got some ideas here with this. So we're going to bounce down to 4. So state whether the situation represents an experiment, again, where I manipulate things to kind of test out a theory I have, or an observational study, which is basically where I just watch people to see how they react to things and what the results are. If it's an experiment, identify the control group, the group that doesn't change, and the treatment group, the group that does. Then determine if there's bias. Okay, we got lots of things to consider here. So number 4, a teacher has his first class complete review activities the day before the test. His second class does no review activities. He compares the test results. So that, to me, looks like an experiment because I'm definitely changing things. I'm not just watching and letting them choose. So what would be my control group in this particular experiment? Right, the one that's not doing. So no review would be my control group. The group that completes the review would be my treatment group, because I'm changing something. And then compares the test results. So, question, would there be bias in this? I agree. I don't think there would be either, just because the teacher's trying to see, does the review actually do any good or not, is the way I would look at this. Now, if it sat there and said, a teacher, likes his first hour class and gives them review activities, and his second class, which he despises, he gives no review activities, let's compare test results, then we might be a little bit crazier with that. But in this case, no, not really. This one, not really, because there's not like a reasoning behind it. If you would say that there was bias, I'd probably say that I'd explain it a little bit more deeply than just that. So then we expand a little bit in the next group. Determine whether the situation calls for a survey, opinion only, observational study, just watching, or an experiment, I'm changing stuff. Explain the process. Okay, you want to find voters' opinions on recent legislation. Okay, that's going to be a survey. So the process, when they say that, how can I go about doing that?
Go to find random group of people and ask them how they feel about it.
Okay. We could, any certain place? To City Hall. Okay. Now, let's chat about this.
Aren't they important people they should know?
So, if you go to City Hall, What types of people are you going to run into at City Hall? Professionals, legislators. Are legislators going to have a particular view on the legislation that got passed? Probably. Yeah, if this probably would have some bias to it. But yeah, if you go to some random place, maybe you go to a park or a store and you're just kind of hanging out outside. So instead of them selling you a candy bar, you're asking them what they think about the latest bill that they passed. Okay. But it would get you a more random group of people for sure. Even though if you wanted to get a certain type of person, that wouldn't be a bad idea. So that's good. That's good. So I like this crew. Oh, there's my bias. When we talk about these things. Okay, back to the random sampling thing again. Again, is there any bias with this? Every other shopper coming out of a mall is surveyed to determine how much people spend during the holidays. Is that random?
No, every other.
Okay. That's the part I was looking for. Here, is this random? No. If we were just doing every other person, that'd be fine, because, I mean, every person, that'd take forever. The problem is, yeah, sometimes when if you're trying to figure out how much they spend during the holidays, you're probably going to want to find some random people, because normally what happens, what are you going to find with people that are coming out of the mall during the holidays? Yeah, they're people probably going to be spending more. So you might want to find a different spot to kind of do a survey like that. Maybe someplace where everybody has to go, like the grocery store or something like that, just to kind of get an idea. That's true. That's true. You definitely, there's many more places anymore that you can go shopping for holiday gifts. All right, now change it up a little. Determine the survey question that will best obtain the desired answer. So Lauren wants to figure out the most popular presidential candidate. So which of these three questions would probably most likely get her to the information she's doing? For whom would you vote in the upcoming election? Do you prefer a particular political party? If you could vote, would you? Agreed. Because if I went to the second one, we're not trying to figure out if there's more Republicans or Democrats. That isn't what it seems she wants. If you could vote, would you? We're not trying to see how many people are voting. We're just trying to see who's popular. So, right, just looking for something like that. Just getting you to think a little bit about the types of questions that you'd ask if you were doing one of these things. If you didn't notice up on the board, we are skipping 17. 17's got a twist that we haven't really talked about. So we're gonna lay off of that. 18, though, again, experiment or observational study. Find 100 students, half of whom are in French club, and compare their grades in French class. Experiment or observational study? Observational study, because I'm not making them go do something. I'm just kind of saying, okay, I'm just going to keep an eye on this. Is there bias? Ooh, I'm hearing both. Okay, if we're comparing their grades in French class, and half of them are in French club, these people probably are a little more interested or have a little more fluency. So, yes, we'd have some bias. How can we fix it?
Either just solely studying people who are just part of the class itself or part of French club.
Okay. So maybe random French students. Any other ideas? We're like, no, that sounds like a pretty good idea. I agree. I was just going to see if anybody had anything off the wall they would think of here. All right. So let's see here. Survey, observational study, or experiment. You want to find out if drinking soda affects stomach linings. Might be disgusting, but it's something we're looking into. So, I could see arguments for observational or experiment, but probably lean a little more towards experiment just because you need to know for certain what people are doing. So how could you figure that out if it's an experiment?
Test groups, like, you're not giving people soda, we give people soda.
Okay, so we could have a soda group and a non-soda group, and over time see what happens. That would be a good way of going about that. And right, you even could do it with lots of soda versus occasional soda or something like that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are a couple of very good ideas with that. But some of you got some possible like career options here with coming up with this stuff. This is good. Okay, last one we're going to do together, because again, notice at 27 we stop. We're not going to do the hot problems. So selection bias. In a call-in poll, 81% of more than 6,000 respondents said that a certain businessman symbolizes what makes the USA a great country. How is this an example of sampling bias? So I've got this poll where people call in. I guess there's some number they call, and then I guess they're asking if this certain businessman symbolizes what makes the USA a great country. So 80% of them said yes. Why is that biased?
Are they giving other options, like, or is it just yes or no?
That could be something. Is it a yes/no question? Now, am I randomly polling people? How could call-in cause a problem with some bias? Okay, maybe they don't have a phone.
They're probably going to call and support that person.
Okay, so we got a couple of things. We could have no phone. That would be a little bit of a problem. But also here, people that call probably support the idea. If you don't care, you're probably not going to bother calling in. So you've either got the people who are really, really against it or really, really for it. In this case, it looks like people that are really, really for it. So, again, on something like this, how could I fix it? Okay?
Take a bigger, like, margin of people. Yeah.
We could take a bigger margin. We could send out a survey. Those are a couple of very good ideas with that, just to kind of give people some more options in that sometimes. So, good. Okay? So, again, just to knock out some of these other ones on this worksheets, the rest of the assignment, you got some good examples in all the sections, and as good a back and forth as we had, I think most of you are going to blow through this. I've got the key up front. If you get done early and you either need, again, anything off of here, or you'd like to get a little bit of a head start with the preview for tomorrow, I've got the previews, or we can get some of those other things for you to have that set for you. So nice job today.